Hey guys, it's Old Man Wags here with Dirk of the Pressure Washers. We're talking to you today about poly Y strainer assemblies and clear bowl filter assemblies. Aside from the fact that the manufacturer labels them as strainers versus filters, in this specific video we're going to refer to them as synonymous and accomplishing the same task. There is a technical difference between a strainer and a filter, but we're not going to focus on that for the context of this video. What we are going to look at is the key differences between each one of these. So let's go ahead and break down why we would choose one of these versus the other one. First off, we know we need to select our plumbing. Each of these is available in 1/2 inch, 3/4 inch, and 1 inch. Additionally, if you look at how they kind of map out, if they're laying in line with your plumbing, it's usually best to replace like and like together, which means if in the past you had a bowl filter assembly and your plumbing was mapped out based on that, you probably want to reuse the same body style. The main reason is because each of these is designed to sit in the upright position, or at the very least, be more up and down than it is sideways or upside down. And what I mean by that is, this is not acceptable for any of these strainers. This is okay, and this is okay, but when it's flat like this, that's not always the best for it. It's going to be the exact same context no matter which one of these that you purchase, because the filter and the fluid basically all work the same way. The fluid goes through, it drops down, and then as it fills the sides of the bowls, it goes through the outside. Now, what we're looking at this next part is why we would choose a clear bowl versus one that's there and hidden away. If we look at this specifically, it's clear, we should be able to see the obstruction, and in theory, we're going to check this more frequently. That's great if you have responsible employees, however, that's not always the case. And I'll show you something that kind of goes wrong with these. While they're good entry-level filters, because of the type of mesh that this is, you can compress it, you can damage it, and this doesn't always last as long as the other ones. I'll show you the insides of the others in a second, but basically, see how easy that was to crush? When you put that back in, and you set up that bowl, it does not seat properly. And because of that, it's now twisted in a different orientation. Why is that important? Well, basically, if you think about it, if there is any kind of gap or compromise in the strainer itself, that means that it is likely not going to filter to the ability that it can. More importantly, that means that some sort of contaminant is going to get through to your high pressure pump, causing more damage because you went with this style of filter. Not to say that can't happen with the other style, but let's go ahead and compare the same size, 1/2 inch to 1/2 inch. As we look at this specific one, it has almost the same stainless steel mesh, but we have this plastic cage around it so that I can't really compress it. And unless I physically am trying to break it, even then it's pretty tough, it does not bend or compromise. This then just gets reinserted and almost kind of seats itself. So, in my opinion, one of these is superior simply from a operational standpoint. That one's easier to change, soap up with some water, rinse out, reinsert, and get back to the job. While again, you can see this right away, that may not always be the determining cause. The next thing that we're going to talk about is restriction. If we look down the barrel of each of these, and actually, you know what? We're going to do that on the 1 inch ones, just so it's a little more open. Each of these has a in as well as an out, so we're going to make sure that we're aimed the same way. We look at our inside versus our inside. You can see that one of them has more restriction than the other because you can see through this one, whereas this one you cannot. That means for higher flow applications, our banjo filter is probably going to be the better way to go. Now let's talk about some circumstances where you would not want to use the banjo assembly. Let's think about if our plumbing has already been laid out by a manufacturer and it's basically already mapped out to accommodate a certain type of filter. It would be very rare that you want to change from this filter to this filter unless you have the space to do so. What do I mean by that? Well, depending on who makes your trailer assembly, if this is sitting in this orientation, it's going to occupy a different pocket than this. Because this goes straight down and this one discharges at an angle, basically when you go to change your filter, you need full access to that. Well, a lot of people think, hey, let me mount this like this on my trailer and I've kind of outsmarted the solution. Unfortunately, it's not that simple. This filter loses a lot of its capacity when you turn that to that orientation. So it's always important to make sure that these are facing in a more downward position than upward position for that context. Same thing with our banjo filter. What that means is if your plumbing was designed and laid out to have this style filter, you're probably going to want to keep that so that you can basically release and change that filter cartridge the same way. Same thing with our banjo assembly. Even though there would be some circumstances where we prefer this one, this is going to be what we're going to stick with if that's what's already installed, just because of the orientation. The next thing that we're going to talk about that's the same on all of these filters, even if you select the right one, there's a chance that you install it backwards. Banjo makes this pretty easy. They put a very definitive arrow pointing to the flow to which the water is going to be moving through it. That means that this is the inside, this is the outside, water is moving in that direction, works in conjunction with the arrow. These bolt filter assemblies have that same arrow on them. It's a little harder to see, but it does move one direction. Water comes in here, water goes out there, and boom, you are good to go. So it's very important to select the right filter or strainer for your needs. Make sure that you not only have the right thread size, make sure that you have a bowl that's going to allow you to easily change it and basically allow it to work with whatever it is that you are planning to service on your unit. It's key to select a good maintenance plan and make sure that everything works in conjunction with you as the contractor, because let's face it, if it's not easy for you to service, you probably won't. Don't forget to leave your feedback in the comments section below. We'd love to hear what you think. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Let's kill some dirt.